Earlier this morning, we've talked about people being inspired by PSFK conference speakers, and we actually have one to thank for the sort of germ that sparked this panel. For any of you who were here last year and heard Jonathan Harris's inspiring talk, he's the founder of Cowbird, which is an online storytelling platform. He was here to talk about sort of humanizing the web and turning it into a more ethical, responsive, inclusive place to be. And at the end of his talk, he had a great closing point where he said that, every day we are using these social platforms, Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, etc., and they are shaping the way that we interact with people around us and sort of the whole, social fabric of our being. But these products are created by an incredibly tiny percentage of the population. Mostly male, not totally, but mostly white, mostly between the ages of 18 and 35, and living in New York or San Francisco and, relatively affluent and educated. And so if you think about it, these people are actually now defining our new society, our new civilization, and the way that we interact. So when we're stopping to really consider the implications that that has, we wanted to think about, in this panel, what would happen if we sort of brought in an underrepresented group of the population, women, into this world to sort of build out what already exists. What could we create? What could we design? What could we market? How could we make these products more inclusive and reach more people by having them be created by a wider and more diverse group of people? So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we go there, I just want to sort of backtrack a bit, set the stage to talk about the current state of the tech industry, what the problems are that we are going to talk about changing. So maybe we can just go down the line, and each of you can sort of describe why you think there aren't as many women in the tech industry as there should be.
Sure, well, I think a lot of it really starts from birth. It's as soon as a girl comes into the world and she's at that age where she's going into a toy store with her parents, she'll look at the toy aisle and see that there's boys' toys and there are girls' toys. And for the most part, the boys' toys are around building and tinkering and making. And the girls' toys don't have much to offer in the way of exploring and making and building. And so I think that plants this really early seed that there's something different about girls, that maybe some of those activities aren't for them. And then as they grow up and they start seeing things like t-shirts being marketed to them that say, too cute for math, so my brother has to do it for me, or allergic to algebra, which were t-shirts marketed by JCPenney and Forever 21, it continues to plant that seed even further, that maybe there's something different about them. Maybe they're not cut out to do professions in tech. And I think that gets perpetuated even further when they don't see a lot of women in tech. And they can't be what they can't see. They're not seeing women across lots of different tech professions, engineering professions, science professions. And then if they do make that little leap and say, okay, maybe I'll try this, once they get into tech, they often find that the environment is so uncomfortable and so unwelcoming that they don't really want to stay there any longer. And so it creates this cycle where girls are seeing things from the very beginning and make them feel like they're not welcome, and they keep getting that message reinforced over and over again as they grow up.
So I pretty much agree with everything. I think Jessica did a pretty good end-to-end analysis of how it starts at a very early age, and you see it all the way through the education system. And I think anecdotally, going through engineering in college, they admitted, so I went to University of Michigan, they admitted 50-50%, like there was a pretty even ratio of men to women, but by the time I graduated, it was like 20% women graduated from my class. So there was a really high attrition rate, and it was everything from the study groups that got created and the politics around that, and having the right people that you could work with on projects that help people either succeed or fail. So I guess that's the only color I would add to what I think was a great end-to-end analysis. So.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm one of those stats. I was at Virginia Tech as a biology major and was very passionate about it and very successful at it. but simultaneously working on things that were around community. So I was helping run the radio station, I was booking bands, and I was like, wow, you're really good at these things too. And I think women innately are natural at bridging communities, multitasking. I think traditionally technology, mathematics, sciences, it's pretty one track. I just wanted a broader experience, and I think a lot of women want that. And I think the opportunity here is for companies and organizations to broaden the sphere of what those roles are. So it's not just a technology lead, maybe it's a communication/technology lead. And how do you broaden those roles? I think the roles have to completely change, and the titles have to completely change.
Right, I would agree with that. I think when, so many of the women that we're exposed to in our culture have this one, there's this idea that they're one thing, that they're a Marissa Mayer, they're a Sheryl Sandberg, when actually those leaders have amazing facets of what they're capable of. And so I think telling that story end to end of all the touch points and all the conversations that they're having throughout the day, and really, presenting a more robust picture of what these people are passionate about and capable of. We think a lot about how to educate a new generation of web makers, the idea of people who don't just consume the web, but also make, hack, and edit that. And it's, I think it's not just thinking about women, but also how can we invite racial and geographic diversity into these spaces as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And so I think that it's important also, and I'm sure you agree, to sort of have, knowing that these biases may exist, or that there are factors that are working against women, what are your sort of best strategies for overcoming them as sort of the situation exists now?
I mean, I think if you're in a leadership position at all in terms of running an event or running an organization, or in a position where you can kind of influence what the guidelines might be for the conduct at an event, or what your expectations might be for the diversity of speakers on the stage, one of the most important things that we can do is set those expectations and be incredibly explicit in what we want and don't want. And I learned this very clearly actually recently when I was producing an event where we were having a cocktail hour afterwards. I was not heavily involved in the planning of the cocktail hour part. I get up to the floor, we're having the cocktail party. I walk out of the elevators, and standing there are tequila girls wearing barely their dresses, in sky-high high heels, being sort of the booth babes of the tequila brand. And I thought to myself, note to self, next time explicitly say that this is something that I don't want at our events. And I think the more that we're all explicit about that, and think about codes of conduct for our organizations, for our events, the more likely we are to start having behavior that is welcoming to people of all different backgrounds and kind of cracks open that very closed system that we've had up until now.
So I think part of being able to impact change and really make an impact and build products involves an understanding of technology. And one of the best ways to get an understanding of technology is to study it in college or start hacking on your side, on your own, and even at a younger age. And when I think about what got me started in engineering, or gave me the confidence to stick it out, it was really my father. So I think if you have children, the first thing you can do is tell your daughters to do engineering or to study engineering. I knew from birth, everybody in my family was an engineer, and it was no different for the women or for the men. And so there really was an expectation that not only would I be an engineer, but I would be the best engineer, and that I would get the best grades, and I would get scholarships. And so I feel like that gave me the innate confidence to just feel like I had a place at the table, that I should be raising my hand in class, that if I knew the answer, I should say it. So I feel like it's almost like a grassroots thing of, if you have children, and your daughter is asking you, what should she study? If she's great at math and science, push her to be an engineer.
Right, and you can buy that daughter toys that enable her to tinker and build. And I still remember my dad built for me this awesome toolbox that has my name on it that I still have, that I used to carry around, following him around the house, you know, banging on things with hammers and actively engaged in making things. And I think there are a lot of people now that are trying to kind of push back against the mass market toys that are so gender specific and really pushing to give both girls and boys lots of options in terms of what they choose to play with.
It's been neat to see internationally a rising number of computer clubhouses and sort of after school spaces that are also devoted to this idea of how can we create a space that really is open, that feels collaborative, and that is all about making and trying and failing and trying again.
And I think everyone in this room is here because you're interested in inspiration, in science, in innovation, in pushing boundaries forward. Every single person in this room, I encourage you to talk to your daughters, your nieces, the daughters of your friends, and show them the world that you're experiencing as well. These girls, women of all ages, need to know that they have the confidence in the world to sit at the same table. They all are going to have an amazing opinion and advice around how things can be shaped. They're going to come up with ideas that can partner with engineering and technology. And I agree, like they should study engineering, but if not, can they partner with teams in technology and have just as much influence?
Yeah, I agree. Those are really strong points. And now I sort of want to just dovetail into a more sort of like creating how we make these products. So maybe Sonia, you can, having created Picky, talk to us a little bit about, you know, when you started out, what sort of void did you see in the current market that you were trying to fill with this product?
So I think shopping is a really interesting space where you're starting to see an emergence of women building products that are intended for women, because 80% of the purchasing that goes on in this world, in the e-commerce space, it happens, you know, woman is the decision maker. So when I set out to build Picky, it was really, I'd previously worked at Amazon. I thought that there were some voids. Amazon does a lot really well, but where they fall short or where you can compete with a site like Amazon is if you can provide a highly curated experience, if you can personalize the experience. So we set out to build a product in that space. And I think when I think about what enabled me to actually bring my idea to fruition, it's really falling back on my engineering background to a large sense. So a lot of what we're doing is highly algorithmic in the sense that we use your social feeds to build a personalized catalog for you. So we have a massive back end that goes out and it's scanning the web, doing like a Flipboard type operation, but identifying what product mentions are occurring and then pulling that into your catalog on a daily basis. So it's kind of a big out there idea that has major technology happening on the back end. And so I think in order to build something has that technical component, you need to lean back on your engineering understanding and you need to build a team of really amazing engineers. And in order to do that, one reason why I was able to convince really amazing engineers to work with me was because I could speak the technical language and I understood how things worked. So I wasn't going to make unreasonable requests. And that's why I think when you look at something like Twitter, or that was a product that needed to be built by engineers, because there's a lot of trial and error and technology that goes into that. And then I think that's why, for me, one of the biggest things I think about when I think about the problem of getting more women into technology or into leadership roles in technology is giving them the tools and the education to build it themselves, because there's always going to be something lost in translation if you're not building it yourself.
Right. And so, Emily, do you think, working at Mozilla, that were there a certain set of values when you were working on the Open Badges project that you were trying to sort of convey or infuse into the system that you thought, other systems were lacking, or, a tech product is really based on the values of its creator? And so maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about that and how that worked.
Sure. So we are a small team that works around the world that 85% of our team is technology, is developers. And because Mozilla is able to work with a broad range of contributors around the world, we have a really neat way of working with people who aren't just supporters of our project, but also contributing code to it. And so that, in a massive way, shapes our product direction. Really the idea that if you want to see something, you need to build it. And knowing that we're this small team, but that we work with thousands of contributors, I can't emphasize enough that it really does, if you want to dream it, if you want to use it, bring it into being. And also, I should mention, these aren't all professional developers that we're working with who are contributing. This is people who are learning, people who are earning badges through code school and peer-to-peer university, and want to kind of flex those muscles with us. And we'll take the help, we'll provide a bit of guidance, and really, creating an internal infrastructure that is sort of very influenced by this worldwide set of contributions, and they're technical contributions.
That's interesting. And Kat, maybe you can speak a little bit to the marketing, like when you were working at Exopolis and even now, like did you find when you were working with, tech companies or with people who are marketing certain products that there was just, a disconnect? Like talk to us a little bit about what you, as a woman, understanding, potentially what other female consumers, designers were looking for, like how did you convey, what were people missing, and how did you go about conveying to them?
I think it's one of the reasons Exopolis was such a success. My partner was a male, I'm a female, and there was just an innate balance. And I'm going to stereotype, but as a young male designer, was completely audacious and cocky, and would just come up with these ideas. He's like, we're going to end up working for Apple, and I'm like, wow, okay. We're started the company at my kitchen table. I'm all in. Like the voice of reason, right? And as a woman, and bringing those sort of more intuitive nuances to the team, to the entire creative process, and to your point, to the clients. So one of the missing pieces in the world at the time, not so much now, was the convergence of designing something across all media. So there were companies that designed just for tech and digital, and then just for broadcast and commercials, or more traditional. And we didn't see the point of that. We're like, we're going to design something across, and create efficiencies across all media. And that was something I was very passionate about and was able to communicate to our clients in a way that they, it was amazing how much hand-holding that took. And I think there's that's one of the, again, going back to what women can bring to the table in terms of a more intuitive approach, a more innately communicative approach, being able to connect those dots, just being able to bridge that gap is what's going to create success.
Excellent. And so maybe just as our sort of final question to wrap up this discussion, we'll go down the line again, and you guys can talk about sort of maybe what's the right word? Crystallize what you think the main problem is that you want to solve, and then how you think, what sort of ideal product or experience or marketing platform you would like to create to sort of open up this world of tech, make it more inclusive, make it more ethical, and make it a place that could reach more people.
Well, I think we need to see, especially for girls, but I think for all kids, more programs that help that light bulb go off. And I saw with young girls in an engineering program that we did at Girl Scouts, where we basically had them do an immersive program in all types of engineering. The first day of the program, they had to start creating a bug list, where they actually walked around the world and observed it through design eyes, seeing things that bugged them, that a doorknob was too high or a railing had been designed too low. It was the first time in their lives that they connected the fact that there were all of these objects in the world, and that a human being actually designed and built them. And then we translated that into building their own products. And for one little girl in particular, she asked her female mentor one day, she said she came in and she had been looking at her mom's minivan, and in her mom's minivan there was no place for her mom to put her purse. And she asked her mentor, is this a design flaw? And the mentor says, yes, it's a design flaw. And the girl goes, well, how come? And the mentor says, well, probably because the car was designed by a guy. So the girl, light bulb goes off, and she goes, wow, so I could design a car, and I could design a place for my mom to put her purse. And we need more of that across the board.
So I think for me right now, I'm trying to address the problem on a more micro level. So I am running my company and I'm trying to build it into the best company that I possibly can. It's funny, I struggle with the gender issue because for the longest time, I actually never thought it was an issue. I don't think I realized until I got to General Motors, after I was working in the advanced engineering group of General Motors after undergrad, that there was a gender issue. So I was blissfully naive or ignorant, or maybe a little bit of both. But I think right now, I know there's a lack of women role models, and so I'm pretty heads down on just trying to build my company and trying to build a community of other female CEOs so that we can support each other. So one of the great things about being in New York City is that there are a fair number of female CEOs, and there are actually 2 or 3 separate CEO networks that I'm a part of where we support each other, we meet, we talk about issues and help each other work through tough situations. So hopefully there'll be, from this network, a whole host of more New York-based success stories in the startup space.
I agree. I was blissfully naive as well. Not only until looking back now, I'm like, wow, it was really rare to be a woman founder in a technology and digital company back in 2000. Last week, I was in San Francisco at the Google offices for a women's founder meetup. I assumed, for whatever reason, that the women would be mostly my age. They weren't. The room was just packed with women in their mostly in their 20s. And the energy in the room was so inspiring, and these girls, women, were fearless and so excited about their ideas and had already gotten funding and were already showing prototypes. And this is a new era. This is brand new, what's just occurring. So my goal is to support that. How can I mentor these women? Need as much confidence as they get, as much support can they get? How can we help with our connections, our networks, place them, mentor them, help fund them if possible? That's the most important thing that I can do right now.
Right. I think the importance of mentorship, and that doesn't need to take the form of meeting 1 hour once a week. That can really be calling up a number of different mentors that you have to think through a challenging problem at work or with your product. Another thing that I'm excited to see is the development of more empathetic online experiences. So really the idea that it isn't just once your product launches that you start to solicit requests via your support channels, but the idea that user-centric design starts from the point of really thinking through, what are these prototypes that we want to start working towards, just user testing, whether it be in-person interviews, whether it be there's a whole host of ways to do that work, but really just making that central to your product development plan, I think will make for a world of experiences that are much more user-friendly and satisfying.
That's great. So I wanted to thank you so much for being here. Backstage, we were talking about how this is actually an issue that we could have spent the whole afternoon, if not the whole day, talking about. Mm-hmm. But I hope that even this small taste has given people the opportunity to think and to rethink what we accept as sort of the status quo of the way that the tech world works, and maybe offer you the opportunity to continually question the way things are and not just accept it. So thank you all so much. Thank you.